Today we're diving into something pretty special, Pantheon CLI. It's a new open-source framework that's being called an Agent OS, basically an operating system for AI agents. The whole idea is to give you an AI partner for your research team, one that can handle some seriously complex, PhD-level analysis. Honestly, it might just change how we all think about our data workflows. But first, let's talk about a pain point that, let's be real, every single one of us knows. You know the drill, right? You're bouncing between your planning notes, a Python script for data loading, then you hop over to R for its killer stats packages, and all the while you're using shell commands to move files around. That constant context switching, it's not just annoying, it's a massive tax on your brain power, and frankly, it's where mistakes happen. So here's our game plan. We'll start by digging into that cognitive load problem. Then we'll look at the new kind of scientific dialogue Pantheon makes possible. After that, we'll pop the hood and see the anatomy of this Agent OS. We'll cover how it goes from a plan to actual execution. And finally, we'll talk about what it means to have this new kind of research partner. All right, first up, the scientist's cognitive load. Let's really frame this problem, this hidden tax that quietly eats away at our productivity. Okay, so on the left, that's where most of us live. It's this fragmented world of switching between our notes, our code, the command line. It's just messy. Pantheon's whole promise is to replace that chaos with a workflow on the right, a single unified conversation. A place where you can mix plain English with Python, R, and shell commands all in one flow. The goal? To just slash that cognitive overhead. So that brings us to section 2. And a totally new way of working. We're talking about a shift from writing rigid scripts to having a dynamic, agent-driven conversation. And let's be super clear, this is not just another fancy autocomplete. The whole paradigm here is an AI scientist. Think of it as a partner that actually gets the why behind your work, from the initial hypothesis all the way to interpreting the results. It's engineered to understand high-level scientific goals, especially in really dense fields like genomics. So picture this. You kick off your workflow by just talking to it. You say, hey, load my single-cell data using Python and ScanP. Simple, right? The agent just goes and does it. But then, and here's where it usually gets painful, you realize you need the statistical power of the Seurat package, which of course lives over in the R ecosystem. Normally, that means exporting files, switching terminals, maybe grabbing a coffee to deal with the headache. But here's the magic trick. With Pantheon, you just keep the conversation going. You don't leave the terminal. You don't export a single file. The agent handles the jump from Python to R completely behind the scenes because it maintains a persistent, shared variable state between them. That data object you made in Python? Yeah, it's now just sitting there, ready to go in R. So what does this actually get you? Well, the advantages are huge. You can mix and match languages like it's nothing. But maybe even more importantly, the entire conversation, your prompts, the agent's code, the outputs, becomes a living, self-documenting log of your analysis. This is a game changer for transparency and reproducibility, which, as we all know, are absolutely critical. Okay, section 3. Now, for all of us engineers in the audience, this is the good stuff. Let's take a look under the hood at how this thing is actually built. The architecture is beautifully clean, broken into 3 distinct packages. First, you've got Pantheon CLI. That's your user interface, the view. Then you have Pantheon Agents, which is the brain. That's where the LLM integration, the reasoning, and the state management all live. And finally, Pantheon toolsets. These are the hands, the actual functions and tools the agent can pick up and use. And this separation of concerns is just chef's kiss. It's so well done. What it means is, if you want to give the agent a new skill, say support for a new bioinformatics tool, you just contribute to the hands layer, the Pantheon toolsets. You can extend what the agent can do without ever having to touch the complex reasoning core. That's how you build a scalable, extensible system. All right, so now that we know how it's built, let's talk about what it can actually do. Let's look at the agent's toolkit. So it comes with a pretty powerful toolkit right out of the box. You've got your multi-language support, a file editor, shell access, but the one that should make every engineer here sit up and pay attention is the generator tool. Get this, it's an AI-powered tool that helps you build new tools. It's meta. It makes the entire system self-extending. That is just cool. And this system goes way beyond just executing commands. It's designed to mimic how human experts actually work. It can literally read a PDF of a scientific paper or web tutorial to learn a new analysis method. It uses retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, as sort of an external brain for deep knowledge. And it can automatically plan out these complex, multi-step workflows based on what it's read. Now, for anyone working with sensitive, proprietary, or just plain secret data, this is the slide for you. It has full support for local large language models through things like Allama. That means you can run the entire system completely air-gapped. Your data never, ever leaves your machine. We're talking 100% data privacy, full stop. Okay, last section. Let's tie this all together. What's the real value here? Well, it's about being a force multiplier for people who are already experts. This quote from the project's documentation really nails it. Pantheon isn't here to replace the expert. It's a workflow augmentation platform. Its whole purpose in life is to be a force multiplier, to take a skilled researcher and automate all the tedious mechanical junk so they can focus on the big, important questions. And while it has this really strong start in computational biology, the core platform is totally domain agnostic. The ideal user isn't defined by their job title. Whether you're a bioinformatician, an ML researcher, or a quant in finance, the core trait is the same. You're an expert who's comfortable in the command line, and you just want to offload that cognitive friction and get to the answer faster. So we'll end on this question, which I think is the most important one. The real promise of a tool like this isn't just about writing code faster or being more productive. It's about changing the very nature of our work. If you could free up all that brain power you spend on the mechanics of execution, what could you discover? What becomes possible when your tools don't just run commands, but actually think like a scientist?